G'day everybody, I'm going to show you how to do a oil change and a fuel filter change today. So it's pretty important to get the right tools for the job as always. So you're going to need a trolley track. I'm using a 3-ton, some wheel chocks, degreaser, some rags. The oil you need is 5 watt 30, that is the recommended amount. It is a 6.9 litre capacity, so I managed to get this from Autobarn for 7 litres for $83. A waste container to put your old oil in. I'm not going to put it back in this because I'm going to use the couple of spare litres. Drip chain for catching the oil filter, another dirty rag that's a really dirty one. That's what I'm going to use when I undo the oil filter because it's a prick. You're going to need some lights. You're going to need some pliers for the fuel filter removal. You're going to need a oil wrench or oil ratchet tool. This is probably the best one. It fits a lot of sizes and it's the most narrow. It can get in there. Need nose pliers for the fuel filter, sorry. Screwdriver again for the fuel filter. Gloves for taking off the drip pane. And any bolts I'm going to go through the fender. I'm going to use the electric ratchet, some gloves to use when I'm applying the fresh clean oil to the new oil filter. Jack stands obviously is a must. The car weighs approximately 2 tons, so they're each 2 tons each. A socket set, very important. And of course you need your parts. So your oil filter is this one here. Go genuine. The reason why you go genuine is the Ryco one's hole orientation is slightly different on the bottom because the Ryco version is actually designed for sort of one size fit all sort of mentality, and because these sit like that the whole orientation on the Ryco filters can be, some people don't have problems, some people do. It can be just slightly off, and you can get some oil pressure faults showing on the D40. So it's best to use genuine. It's only $30 for a genuine oil filter, so why not? A sump plug, you don't necessarily need it, but I'm going to grab one anyway, just in case. Let's put that in there. And this is the fuel filter. So my model that I use is that one. These are a prick because you can't use aftermarket in my model because of that. That sensor on the bottom is patented by Nissan, so you can't get Rycos with them. And this is the later model ones. It's $180. So they are expensive. So that's all the tools you need, and you need also a fender cover to help reduce damaging on the side of your fenders. So that's everything you need. So if you're probably wondering where the chassis stands go on the chassis rails on the front, so this is the front right, they go here. So you can see the cross member there, and you see this little nice archway. That's also where you put your scissor jack stands for changing tires. So your rest of your chassis stands in there, and at the back put the chassis stands in here as well. So right near your muffler you can see it across, and then the other side's exactly the opposite. When you're lifting the rear with a trolley jack like I'm going to, you lift from the rear diff, and when you lift on the front, you lift, you can barely see it, but just behind the sump there's another cross member. You can see it there, it goes all across there. You lift with the trolley jack up in there, and if you're lifting with a car hoist, it says to lift around this area here. Put your pad up there, and then on the rear there's also another pad where you put it on as well. So that's what the manual says. And also remember to always chock your wheels, and make sure your handbrake is on. I leave my car out of gear. Some people leave it in gear, but with a diesel, I'm old-fashioned. I don't like to leave them in gear because you can get a runaway car. if they accidentally start on their own. So yeah. Alright, so before I'm going to start today, I'm going to remove the battery terminals, disconnect the battery. The reason for that is, as I'm going to be removing the fuel filter, I don't want anything to be live, just in case sparks are created. You never know, it's just best to be safe. I'm also going to remove the engine cover, so then that way it allows me access to the priming bulb under there for when I do the fuel filter. You just undo these 2 bolts on either side, one there, one over there, and then you just sort of pull towards you and up at the same time, and it just comes off. Okay, so there's a couple of methods you can do this. One method is you can go from above. I decided I would just remove that later. You can go from above and you can access, that's it there. You can access it from above. The downside is you have to take that out, which I will anyway, but I didn't want to do it this way. And disconnect the vacuum hose to the booster, and then you can get at it from underneath. The method which the manual recommends, and I am going to do, is I'm going to tackle it through here. And if you look in there, you can see it there. So I'm going to take out all this inner guard. To do it, you take out the mud flaps, which I've started doing already. So you take out all these screws. There's also one under there. You then take out some of these retaining clips here and here. Take out these 2 bolts here, and then you disconnect all these little clips, and then it should just pop out in theory. This is the first time I've done this on this car, so I'm learning as I'm going, but shouldn't be too bad. So I'm going to get to it, and then I'll start recording the next stage when we can see access to the drain filter. The reason why I'm doing all this first before I drain the plug is because I want to see if I can actually do it before I start doing anything major, and then find that something broke or something's gone wrong and I can't continue. So this is the reason why I'm doing it this way. Normally you would just drain the fluid, and while you're doing all this, you know, it will be drained fully by the time you get to it. But I am using caution because this is my first time doing anything like this on this car. I'm used to Commodores, small little hatchbacks, front wheel drive sort of things, all-wheel drive cars. Nothing like this. So it's part of the learning experience. Just take your time. It will take longer than what a mechanic will, but it's best to get it done properly and safely. So, alright, so I've got it off, so now I'm doing it the correct way, the way that you would normally do it. So you drain it, take out the fender. My fender is missing a few clips because the dealer must have lost a few, and be careful when doing it because you can lose a few too. Some clip is managed to disappear from me down in here somewhere. I have no idea where it is. I'm trying to find it while I'm going through all this. So you let that drain, you just let that drain for a while. You get an oil wrench, just like the one I showed before, put it in there, pack a rag around the area, so then that way you keep these hoses down in there clean from oil, because oil degrades oil, eats rubber away, oil eats rubber away. So loosen up enough to get the airflow. Once the airflow, just let it sit for a bit. Try and get as much oil out of that filter as possible, so then that way it's less mess to bring it out, because you got to remember, you got to undo it and take it up still upside down and then somehow flip it without making too much mess. So just let it drain as much as possible, then that way that's a lot more manageable. It does sit in like a little cup, so if you just loosen it up and just sort of lift it up just gently, it will still drain into the sump and then drain back into there. As you can hear, it's still draining. That's all from the filter. So that's how you do this process. So I'm just gonna continue doing this, and when we do all this sort of stuff and we do the oil change, I will drop her back down to the ground once we finish the oil, start her up, get the oil pressure running right, and then I'm going to move on to the fuel filter. You can do it everything at once, but again, I'm learning. I'm going to do it one thing at a time. but it doesn't hurt to do this, change the oil, drop her down, change the fuel filter, primer, and start her up and do all that stuff all in one hit. But I'm going to do it one thing at a time because I'm learning as I'm going. So this is how you do it. And then once you get confident, then you can get faster and faster at it. So yeah. So as you can hear, she's still draining a fair amount of oil out. 7 litres is a lot. The oil looks pretty good. It's nice and black. Doesn't look like there's any water or any contaminants in there. The ring fell in there, the washer, but that's okay. That's the reason I bought a replacement. So yeah, I'll show you the next stage after this. Okay, so she's now stopped dripping, so I'm going to fit the oil filter back on. I made sure she's all clean. Alright, so I made sure she's all clean. So if you have a look down there, see that nice shiny middle bit? That's where the seal sits on. So that's got to be nice and clean. The thread's also nice and clean as well, so she'll screw on nicely. There's a bit of oil in there still, but that's okay. Can't get it all out sometimes. I didn't get any spillage on any of those hoses, so that's a win. So yeah, now I'm just gonna hand tight it on, and I mean hand tight. Don't ever overdo them. You don't need to. They work on a vacuum, so you get the hand tight, maybe a little bit more than like half an inch, maybe. Depends. It's all about feel. And then once you've done that, then you're ready to go and start putting the drain plug in and start filling. Okay, so I have filled her up. She's at the moment between the L and the H. I have used that much oil out of the 7 litres, so I should have enough oil, give or take, because I haven't quite hit the 1 litre mark. It should be just above or just below the 1 metre mark, so the 1 litre mark, so it should be all good. Just going to start her up and see if there's any leaks now, and then I'll add more oil when she's level on the ground, because at the moment she's got a slight slant back. It looks level, but it is slightly gone to the back, so it's a bit hard. So yeah, let's see how it goes. Alright, so I have filled her up. I started her up for 1 minute, no more, no less. Let the engine oil circulate. The engine oil light came off. So that's a good sign, means pressure's up. I looked up in there, I was watching that while the engine was running, seeing if any oil was going to gash out of the filter. No. Watching the drain plug there, was watching to see if anything was draining out of there. The answer was no again. So that means I can lower her down, then get off some flat ground somewhere, and then add more oil if need be. I've got to keep an eye on it for the next few days. I'll probably just travel the oil with me and add it if I need it, and just keep an eye on it for a few days, make sure there's no more leaks. So now I'll drop her down, and then we'll get onto the fuel filter once I finish the oil process. I hope this helps. It's certainly been a learning curve for me, so yeah. Okay, so she's on the ground now. I've just topped her up. So what you need to do is you need to top her up until basically you get to the first increment. I'll show you. So it's a little bit hard to see. See how there's... God damn it. Just let it focus. I can't touch my phone. Alright, see how there's 2 little increments there. One says low, one says H. Sorry, one says, yeah, H. So it's a litre in between the first 2 increments. It's really hard to see. I wish I could adjust my phone, but I can't. But anyway, so it's exactly a litre in between those 2 lines. So you want to get to basically the 1 litre mark left of your 7 litre bottle. And then you want to just drip it in little bit by little bit until you get in between that, and then you get on level ground, and then you do your top up. Never go over. Mine's in between the mark, and I'm on a slight incline, which means I'm within a good level that's safe. You don't want to go over that level. So yeah, so So that's what we want. You want to be able to stay in between that range when you lower it down and get onto level ground. You don't want to go less or more. It's just a balancing act really. So now we've done that, I've tested the car. I'm now going to disconnect the battery terminals, and then I'm going to disconnect the water sensor on there, and then I'm going to start disconnecting hose by hose, and then connect the new one on and go from there basically. So I'll walk you through it. Okay, so I've disconnected the battery terminal. That should be right. I don't think that's gonna flip and hit the terminal. Now the first step I'm going to do is open up the fuel cap to depressurize the system, so then that way the fuel doesn't go bursting out everywhere. So just open up the fuel cap, just like that. You know, it doesn't need to be crazy open. You can just sit it up like that so you don't have that. Oh, you can fucking just let it out, whatever. All right. Then I'm going to disconnect. This hose here first. This hose, then these two hoses, and then I'm going to other way around. I'm going to disconnect that first, then I'm going to disconnect that, and these two, and then I'm going to undo it, take it out, put the new one in, connect it all up. Remember the exact orientation the hoses go in. Don't mix this and that one up. It's pretty easy though. Your primer bulb's down there, that's your inlet, and that's your outlet, and then these are your returns. So that's how it works. Okay, so I've connected the hose back up. I ran into a bit of issues. So I didn't disconnect the sensor first. I actually disconnected the hose first because I couldn't get that plug undone because I couldn't figure out how the plug works. For future reference, the manual doesn't tell you how to do this. People don't fucking tell you how to do this, but to get that sensor off, to unplug it, there's a little U-clip on the bottom that you undo with a little electric screwdriver. Take that clip out, don't bloody lose it, and then it just pulls off. We just spent about 30 minutes trying to figure out how to undo this freaking clip. So that's how you do it. I hope that helps anyone in the future, but it's a pretty simple process. You disconnect your hoses. Now with this video, you know how to do that bloody clip. You undo the clip, you replace with a new one, and then you connect everything up, seal the fuel cap back up, so that way there's you can get pressure. It just makes priming easier. And then what I do is the little priming bulb, there's a little metal bracket that it sort of leans up against. So you get up under here. It's a little hard to do this with camera in hand. You're under there and you just keep squeezing until it gets firm. Then you start the car up. But just keep screaming. It takes ages. So just keep squeezing it. And then when she gets firm, then you crank it, then you stop it, and then you just do it again until she actually starts and runs. So it's getting firm now. So I'll call you. I'll call in when the bulb's a little bit more primed. Okay, so let's see if she starts. And then the window. I've disconnected the battery and connected back up. Alright, so see how the auto window doesn't work? This is a quick little thing. So bring it all the way up. Wait, bring it all the way down, sorry, first. Bring it all the way up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bring it all the way down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's how you reset that. Pretty cool, eh? Alright, so apparently that didn't work. 1, 2, 4, 5. Sometimes it doesn't work, sometimes it... There we go, now it works. Alright, let's see if it starts. Okay, so that's good. So we're going to reverse out because I need to clean the engine because I've spilled a bit of fuel in there. So First serve up. It'll take a little bit for the variable durometry controller, whatever the fuck it's called, to fix itself. Because I disconnect the battery, the car's going to relearn everything, so that pedal dance is unnecessary. Alright, I'm going to turn her off and give the engine a bit of a clean, and then go for a test drive. Okay, so disconnecting the battery didn't work, so I did the pedal dance. So you turn the ignition on, you wait 3 seconds, and then you pump the pedal 5 times within 5 seconds. Then you release the accelerator pedal for 7 seconds, and then you hold down for 7 seconds until you see the engine light flashing. It's in learning mode. Then once you do that, you then take your foot off, then you put your foot on again for an additional 10 seconds, and that resets the fuel pump and puts everything into learning mode. So at the moment she's just going through all the different faults. I don't know how to read them. Hopefully this fixes the issue that I was having. So basically what was happening was I started the car up and she was running perfectly fine. Then I reversed out and turned the car off, so then that way I could wash the diesel off the motor. Not like high pressure, just literally a light spray. I then turned the car on and she started making a horrible noise. So I quickly immediately turned it off. I checked the fuel system, make sure there's no leaks, no holes in the system or anything like that. Perfectly fine. Fuel pressure is good. There's no holes, there's no leaks. Water wouldn't have gotten into it. There's no oil leaking. Everything is working as it should be mechanically, so I don't know what happens, so I'm doing this to try and sort of fault it out. We're going to try and see if we can start her up again in a sec. Just waiting for it to go through all the different fault codes. I'm not too sure how long it takes. It's been a while since I've done it, I can't remember. It's getting close though. So anyway, I'll start up the motor in a sec when she's finished. So she's in learning mode now. She sounds a lot better just doing that reset. There's a bit of water still in the fan, so she's making a couple of bit of ratties. We're just going to go for a test drive and get the ECU to learn what it's doing, and I'll be right back. Alright, so I did test drive, got up to temperature, no leaks, no issues. She is running good. So yeah, if you do the fuel filter, do the pedal dance, reset the ECU, that will stop the horrible noise that it starts to make. I should have done it as well when I did all the gearbox and trans fluids, because I noticed that my gears are running a lot smoother now too. So yeah, this is the reason why I'm showing these videos. I'm showing that anyone can do this stuff. You don't need to pay an arm and a leg to do it. You can do it yourself. Legally you can do it yourself. It's your car, you have the right to repair. You just got to take your time and be careful and learn as you go. Next time I do this, I know what to do, instead of taking me all day, because I was stuck in little annoying pieces like a clip on the sensor. Next time it will probably take me an hour to do it, especially since I'm not, trying to record and all that sort of stuff and researching at the same time. So it's just good to do things yourself. This car's out of warranty now, so it's all my responsibility. This is the reason why I'm doing all the things myself, and I want to record it because there's not much content out there for these cars. The stuff that's out there is all a bunch of Americans, and a lot of people glaze over certain things. Some of you watching this probably think that I glazed over because I didn't record like me doing the processes. The reason for that is I can't hold my camera and do it at the same time. It's just too hard. It's pretty simple. I showed you where to look, where to go, and the problems that can arise while you're doing it, and how I overcome them. So I originally was thinking that I could go in from under the car and then reach up and then do the oil filter. No, I couldn't do that. I could do from above, but that will make a huge mess. I didn't want to do that. So I decided to go through the other route, which I was told by another to go through the real arch. That worked. It's little things like that that you sort of have to be adaptable and learn as you go. So every car's different. Every car's got its own quirks. Every car has a fault. Every car has pros and cons. Everything else in this car is pretty easy to work on. It's just doing the oil change is a bit of a pain in the ass. And the fuel filter wasn't, once I figured out what it was pretty straightforward. Getting the hoses off was pretty straightforward. It was just trying to figure out how to get that electrical sensor off. And all the other videos online, they don't have that style of fuel filter. They've got the one without the water sensor. And my model, I can't run the car without that sensor, so I can't use aftermarkets. So it's a real pain in the ass, but I got there in the end, and she's running smoother. So I'll keep an eye on her oil levels for a couple of days, make sure there's no leaks or anything like that. I'll let her sit for a little bit, and then I'll come back out later on and check the oil now that I'm on level ground. So yeah, I hope I helped. If there's any questions, ask in the comments. I'll answer you. I'll get back to you. I'll try and get back to your detail as well on certain things. So thank you very much. So that's how to do the oil change and the fuel filter on a D40 Navara. Thanks, mate.